I know I'm picking on the tip thing pretty hard lately, but I work with tips, so I appreciate people that do tip. And you know, I think I'm not mad at people that don't tip. I just I feel they lack the education of what they're doing, and that's basically why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Look, you see, the devil shut me down. Every time I hit a topic, the devil doesn't like. That's what he does. He shuts me down, and you can tell. And he don't want you to make tip money. He wants you to be poor in the street, begging for $1 from him, from his welfare system, and everything else that he set up where the paupers go. And he wants you to go. He's directing you like a cow to the meat slaughter, the meat house. He wants you to go down that chute, because he's got it all set up for you when you get there. But, look, the force is, if you go to a restaurant, say, and you tip a waitress a nice amount of money, and I'm not telling you how much. It depends on the bill. But, it comes back to, like, you might get soda refills, and she'll leave one or two, or she won't put them on the bill. She knows you're a good tipper. She knows she can help you out in certain ways. I'm not guaranteeing you. I'm not saying you to say, well, why'd you put it on the bill? I gave you a good tip kind of thing. But, and sometimes in those ways, that's the way it comes back to you. Or you get more fries in your bucket than the guy who doesn't tip at all. There's ways of doing things. And there's ways things come back to you. And I went the other night, I had $100 steak and lobster dinner. I gave a $30 tip. I was by myself. The guy basically just brought me the plate and walked away, but, I'm not saying it to brag. I'm saying it to help other people say, maybe I should do what Jesus did and leave a nice tip, and they were nice to me. They gave me a nice table. That's how it shows up in the tip, If you're a rotten tipper, you're going right next to the bar where everybody's yelling and screaming and you have a horrible table. If you're a good tipper, you get the quiet one in the corner where nobody bothers you. It pays to tip well. They pay attention to it. The restaurants know the customers that tip well, and they also know the customers that don't. And if you don't, you get a bad reputation. And, like I said the other night, if you don't put a tip on that Grubhub, the guy goes a little slower to your house, your house might be right around the block from the restaurant, but if he's got an order that's got a $10 tip, and he's got your order because it's right next to the restaurant, you only tip $2, thinking they only have to go a few houses down. I'm only giving them $2, It don't work that way. So what the driver's going to do is he's going to go to the $10 tip, which is maybe 3 miles away, and then by the time he comes back to your house, which is 2 blocks away from the restaurant, your food is cold. You got your $2 worth of food, is what I'm saying. So everything comes back to you in ways you can't imagine. And that's what I'm trying to say, And it goes even with what I'm doing, what I did last night with the nukes and the countries, Giving up the nukes. What are you giving up? The right to destroy and kill millions and end the life on the planet? You're fighting me on that? I mean, why? You have a weapon you can't use. Why are you going to fight me on that? Women in charge? So what? The women in Dubai, they have just as much right to that oil in the ground or the gas in the ground that you're making all this friggin' money off of. The women have just as much right to it as the men. And I'm just giving the women what they deserve. You treat them like shit for centuries. What goes around comes around, and now it's coming. So settle it up, bitch. Eat it. Swallow the shit sandwich I just served you. And your country's not going to suffer for it. The women aren't going to build bigger and better nukes. They're not even going to think about building nukes. They're not going to. Anybody who entertains them with an idea of building a nuke, so we don't do that. We're doing flowers. It's just. And I'm not saying flowers and women are tied together. I have flowers in my room right here. They're fake, but I think flowers are important, but fake or not, because they just do something to your brain when you look at them. You know, I think they have an effect on you. So that's why when you go to a desert, you have a certain effect because there's no flowers. You know, so it hits you in a different way. But please, stop thinking, think past your nose. You know, you're thinking about that $5 in your pocket, but you're thinking, I come here all the time. You know, and I wonder why they treat me like shit. You know, you give a shitty tip. You know, those people got to pay those rents. They got to pay their cable bill. They got to pay their car payment. They can't do it off a $5 tip. So, you know, and you complain that they hire people that don't speak English. They don't speak English because they're the only ones that'll work for $5. So, and you get what you pay for. So stop it. Grow up, bitch.